Hey guys, welcome to another East Coast Rams podcast. I am one of your co-hosts here, Ashton, with my awesome co-host Zach. How are you doing, man? Summer is coming to a close. A lot of eventful news for us to talk about. How's everything going with you?
Hey, it's going great. Football is officially back. We're done with the preseason. We'll recap that here in a bit. But I'm just so excited to actually see our Rams get back on the field. It's just, the break is good. We need a little bit of break from the football to kind of relax, get our gears and get our gears back into place. But preseason really just teases us. So I'm just ready to be back full on board on the regular season games.
hmm Yeah, it's definitely fake real football. It feels so close to the real thing, but it isn't, and it just makes you want the real thing more.
I mean,
So,
really, the only position that we'll talk about that really matters that is like a real game is our kicking game. I know we'll talk about that in a bit. You have your feelings, I have the opposite feelings, so that's going to be a fun discussion. So that's a tease for you guys to stick around for that. But first, make sure that you like and subscribe our YouTube page, youtube.com/at East Coast Rams. Please leave your comments below. We're going to be talking about Ernest Jones's trade. What are you guys' thoughts? Do
mhm.
you think the Rams should trade him? Do you think they need to really sign him? Leave those in the comments below. Also, make sure that you like and subscribe us on Apple. What is it? Apple Podcasts, Spotify, those things like that as well.
Mhm.
So
Yep. Please follow us on all those awesome apps and comment down below, like he said. So Zach, injury updates. We'll get into those for a second. It looks like Darius Williams, Nakua Alert, Jackson, and Jonas Jackson are both or all are at practice again, taking reps and stuff like that. I don't think Nakua was completely in pads, at least as of today. So I'm sure that's coming.
yeah, no full practice for Nakua, but Sean McVay mentioned that he is optimistic that all of those
Yep.
players will be ready to go for Week 1 against the Lions.
hmm And
But
Kyron Williams is happy birthday to him. Just gonna say that real quick.
yeah, there's not going to be any news about Kyron Williams. He's a beast. We're not going to talk about him all this episode, but it is his birthday today,
Nope.
the day that we're recording. So happy birthday to him. His big birthday present from the Rams is the new Woodland Hills facility.
Oh
So
no.
go enjoy that. Yeah, new practice facility for him. So it's about time. It's only taken 8 years.
Yes. Yes. Only taken 8 years, and McVay is finally freed from that. I think he was in a trailer, so it looked like he was getting kind of sad in that trailer all the
That
time.
trailer was like his background was so boring. Like he had like this giant bookshelf, but it had like one book, or is that his office? I don't know where it is, but whatever his background is for for that is just terrible.
hmm Yeah. Kind of rotating back real quickly to injury updates. Havenstein may or may not miss week one.
Yeah,
So
it's definitely trending unlikely, but we're all hopeful.
yeah, missing two, both of our tackles week one. Doesn't seem fun, Zach. Not fun at all. Especially for
No.
O line that hasn't had a lot of time together, especially in their current positions.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that you really don't want to miss anybody, but your most veteran player on that offensive line and on the team in general being out the first game against, a really strong opponent in the Lions den, literally. Um, it's something they need all hands on deck for sure.
Do you have someone you kind of lean to right now on the roster that you would want to fill up a backfill right there on the right side? I mean, you would think no boom, but he's going to be
Yeah,
starting a
but with
lot.
Alaric Jackson also being suspended for the first 2 games, um, I don't know. He may be going to that spot too. So it's going to be a tough choice what the Rams end up actually doing in that spot. But they do have some good depth within the O line, so I think that they should be okay to get through one game.
And that O-line was, I mean, as much as you can read into it as you can, a strength of the preseason, right? So definitely O-line did good there. Uh, Zach, do you want to talk about Jones? Kind of hit
Yeah, so
that
on
first.
kind of news broke yesterday, Sunday, that the Rams were looking to trade Ernest Jones. It kind of initially kind of felt like Ernest Jones's camp kind of initiated that he may want to be traded, but that indeed did not happen. Sean McVay even clarified that today, saying that in his quote, this is after Ernest Jones did publicly on X say that he did not request a trade. That was his quote. And McVay said, in his defense, he's right. He never requested a trade. We had communication with his representation. There has been some dialogue with other teams, and that's kind of where it's at. There are parts of the profession, and there are not fun parts. But there are real parts that you have to acknowledge. Ernest is a pro in every sense of the word. So that quote right there just makes me seem like he may not be on the team next week. He was not at practice today, as far as I'm aware. What are your thoughts about this? I mean, this is something that shouldn't be known, that the Rams haven't paid a linebacker in a really long time.
Yeah.
This is not a position that they want to spend their capital on. Now, whether they should or not, that's not what we're debating. But this is what the Rams have done in the past. I love Ernest Jones. He brings a good energy to that field, and he is that leader of that defense. So who's going to fill that role if he gets traded? That's the problem that I'm facing in this dilemma.
Yeah. So now I know Omar Spites. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Forgive me. He did great, and he did really good in preseason. Apparently, he's been lighting up in camp, and like that's really good. But Jones is been by far our best linebacker in a while, inside linebacker in a very long time. So it's not surprising to me because of what I expected going into this year when he was first drafted was like they'll keep him for 4 years and then they'll let him walk. And we've seen this time and time, and they get kind of like that compensation pick back for him, right? So that's normally what the Rams do. But he had such a good year last year. He's very underrated. Like other NFL fan bases really don't know him, but you can tell other NFL teams have a lot of respect for him. He's had great stats, just great games, and he's kind of like been one of our best defenders in the last 2 years. And he's arguably our best defensive player right now. You can make a debate, but at least veteran wise, he's been the most consistent in the last 3 years. So he's fantastic player, and I didn't expect the Rams to want to extend him. Credit to the Rams radio or talk radio podcast because they kind of floated idea out there, and I'm not sure if I 100% subscribe to this, but they said potentially this could be the Rams having his team go out, get offers from other teams so they don't have to bid too high and offer him basically what other teams are offering him. I don't necessarily see it that way because the Rams have never really operated like that, at least in the last 7 years. So I don't know why they would start now.
I mean, I don't disagree with that point. In my opinion, I still believe we put all of our money in our quarterback's basket, which again is understandable because they're the leader of the team. They're the ones who make the plays. That
He's a discount though right now.
He's a discount right now. But at the same time, the Rams are looking at their future, and they don't want to tie up, whether it's Aaron Donald money or whether it's this, that, or the other money on a linebacker position. They've just never felt that true value in it. I know Ernest Jones has had a knee injury also this past season or past off season, so they're trying to figure that out. Are they trying to cut their losses before, something else happens this season? But I do kind of take into that account, like, if Ernest Jones, I mean, he has had a successful 3 years. I mean, his first year in the league, they went to the Super Bowl and he had a sack in the Super Bowl. So, he's had a very impressive resume. And again, I agree with you. I think he's underrated. But this could be an opportunity where, the Jones camp and the Rams camp are trying to come up with numbers, and they're just not the same ball field. Ernest Jones camp thinks that he deserves more. The Rams camp says we can't really give that more. So we're going to look at a trade. We can either give you this kind of money or you can go with this team. I think that's kind of where they're looking at it. And so I do see that the Rams could be using that as a stepping stone. But if they get a good value from Ernest Jones for draft capital in the future, or maybe, a different position that the Rams are really trying to fill, because we know, like, our offense is pretty sturdy, especially with some of the highlights that we saw from the past few preseason games. But the defense is still kind of this unproven beast, and you're now taking the captain of the defense when you just lost Aaron Donald. And now the only person who's really the captain of that defense, you're going to remove him. That's going to be the hard part to replace.
Yeah, I mean, right now, over the cap has his valuation around 13 mil a year.
So yeah, feels like that's something that the Rams could be doable for, but
I mean,
especially when you're looking at we're looking at the final years of our big Super Bowl window. When you have Matthew Stafford, you have Cooper Kupp, you have a young Puka Nacua, you have rising stars now with Whittington and things like that. Like, we're coming to the end of this big Super Bowl run as far as we know it as of right now. And losing Ernest Jones, losing your captain of the defense, is going to shake that up. And I don't know if that's for the best. Plus, he was the play caller last year, right?
Yeah, he was red dot.
So we're gonna have to figure out who's going to be the next man up to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't see it, because, like, why we wouldn't re-sign him when he's played great. He's still in his prime. We also have, like, the Super Bowl window, and you want less turnover, at least limit the turnover on the defensive side somewhat, losing Aaron Donald and then losing Ramsey last year. And just looking at this, like, yeah, you would have to give him pay raise this year, but you're talking about maybe 4 or 5 mil, and we have 11 mil in cap space. That's still enough, and you could restructure if you have to his contract. I just kind of don't see a reason why we wouldn't do it, especially if we're in a win now in the next 2 or 3 years.
So we'll see. I mean, this could all just lead to nothing. This could be a prove it year for Ernest Jones, to make it or break it. So we'll see what kind of happens. I mean, it's something that he could play for the first few games of the season and get traded before the trade deadline. So we'll see what happens. It would be, like I said, I think it is a big blow to that defense. Again, I know we have players that are coming in who I think are going to be the future of the Rams defense. But you're talking about trying to find someone who's going to be a leader now. And I don't think we have that cohesive leader. We don't have that vocal leader, or we don't even have that physical presence like Aaron Donald did. He wasn't the biggest talker, but he had that presence. He had that dominating feature. Like, we all respect Aaron Donald, and we try to strive for him. Now, who's going to fill that role if Ernest Jones is gone? I don't know, but that's big shoes to fill.
I'm sorry, Zach, but we don't need that presence this year, and we can get it in next year's draft with that 5th rounder or the 7th round pick swap we're going to get for Jones. So you can calm down. Like, we'll find that future leader in the 7th round.
Yeah, but I don't want the future leader. I need to know who's the leader now. I don't care about what happened. Like, I get that we can find a future after this point, but like,
we found Puka in the 5th round, so you can't badmouth that 5th rounder when we.
But we still had Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford for the leader of the offense. Okay, just because you throw in a very popular name doesn't mean he became the leader or the figurehead of that offense. He was a big part of it. But I think again, it's kind of like saying, we're just going to find the next Matthew Stafford. There is no next Matthew Stafford. He's the signal caller for the offense. We're going to lose our signal caller for the defense, even though it's probably
John
easier to find
Johnson is still there. He can call.
Yeah, I know.
He did it in the past.
I know, but I think Ernest Jones is still that leader that I think did a really good job communicating with that defense, and so I'm going to miss him if that's going away. Plus,
I think he's gone, man.
His Robin Hood pose, that was pretty sweet too.
I love Ernest Jones. I'm the biggest Ernest Jones fan in the Rams fan base, and I know he's gone. Like, I would be surprised if they extended him.
I mean, if he's not gone by the first week of the season, I think if they're going to trade him, just by the words that Sean McVay said, and I kind of re-listened to his press conference a couple of times, it feels like this is happening within the next week. If it doesn't happen within the next week, I think he's going to stay on the team for the season. That's just my initial guess based on kind of the reading that I took from his press conference this afternoon.
Yeah, Ayuk for Jones.
Yes.
I'm just cause our comments to light on fire now.
All right. So let's move on to other players that are no longer with the Rams. We had 12 departures.
Yep.
5 or 10 of them that were waived. 2 were terminated veterans. The most surprising is probably Boston Scott. Was with the Rams for 2 seasons?
No, we signed him this offseason.
He wasn't with us last
Boston
year? Okay.
Scott. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. He came from the Eagles. That's right. So, but that is, I think, the most surprising that the Rams decided to move away from him after acquiring him this offseason and then only sticking to only having 3 running backs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, everyone else kind of makes sense. I guess you could say Dresser Wing getting cut, but I could see them.
He was only in it to be a backup for
Bennett in the preseason.
And then so that Bennett didn't even have to play in the 3rd game because he's going to be the backup, obviously, for Stafford for the first 2 games. So wasn't really all that.
Yeah, Boston Scott is a little surprising just because I thought they were going to put him to kind of kick return. But kind of segueing into the preseason and like how people played, I think a player that earned the spot and kind of got Boston Scott released, Zach, was Xavier Smith. He was kind of electric in the return game. Heard some good things about it in camp, and he didn't really play at all in the 3rd game, and Boston Scott did. And that 3rd game is kind of like the kiss of death. If you're playing in that 3rd game, you're under McVay. That's kind of like you better show a lot of sparks in the 3rd game to have a chance.
I think Xavier Smith did play in the 3rd preseason game. I know Jordan Winnington didn't play.
He had a lot less snaps than like Boston Scott, if that's the case. Like he played in the 1st quarter or something like that. I don't think Xavier Smith played a lot.
Yeah. But no, I think Xavier Smith, I think it was getting close to that, who was going to take over in that wide receiver, when we talk about it, we got 4 or 5, like 3, 4, 5 that we're kind of looking at. Xavier Smith, Jordan Winnington, and Tyler Johnson were kind of those 3 on that bubble that we're all trying to find a spot. I think Jordan Winnington is number 1 of those. And honestly, I think Xavier Smith is number 2. And I think Tyler Johnson moves to that 3rd rank. So now you got Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Demarcus Robinson, Tutu Atwell, which, they may try to find a new home for him. And then now you have Jordan Winnington, Xavier Smith, and Tyler Johnson. Again, those are probably where you're looking at as far as
You think they try to
the wide
trade
receivers.
Tutu?
I probably. I mean, I don't think they're going to release him. I think they're going to try to find him a home. They've done that in the past with good, talented wide receivers. Like I said, I think Tutu Atwell's a very talented wide receiver. I have his autograph on my own custom 5 jersey. Like I do love Tutu Atwell. He has his abilities. He can stretch the field. He's quick, dynamic. He's just smaller for the wide receivers.
Doesn't
He's
fit our
taller.
system.
Doesn't fit our system. Our wide receivers have to take a lot of kind of physical damage, and the size of Tutu is just what
We're
kind of
yak.
separates him
Yeah.
from the other
We're
wide
yak team.
receivers. We are, and I think Jordan Whittington really stole the show in the first 2 preseason games. Let's see, I was pulling up his stats. 11 receptions, 126 yards.
Yeah.
His longest was 30. He was averaging 11.45 and had 52 yaks. So I think he obviously was the star. Now, obviously, we have seen this happen before. When we've had McCutcheon in the past who looked really good in the preseason and then never even got to play a starting role in the regular season. Now I think that's different. I think Whittington, he's built differently. He's built as a Rams receiver, so I think he can take the hits and things like that. And maybe McCutcheon at that time couldn't. He was taller and just a different.
He also couldn't block. He couldn't block, and that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, and I think that's
people.
Yeah.
People need to really understand. With McCutcheon, he couldn't block, and that's why he never really got on the field when he was on the roster for the short amount of time he was. And in this Rams team, you have to be able to block, and you have to be able to do that dirty work to get on the field to even catch. And then the dynamic catching kind of helps you get more and more playing time. And I think Whittington is more like Puka than he is. Like, I'm not saying he's Puka, but he's more like Puka than I would say he's like McCutcheon. I think his chances of staying and kind of fulfilling a better version of that Skoranek role is more possible. And if there's an injury, I could see him being able to kind of like blossom. Or like if Tutu lets off the gas a little bit, I could see him overshooting Tutu in the depth chart too.
Oh, I think he's already overshot Tutu. Honestly, I think he has. Just with that physicality that he possesses, and I completely agree with you. Like, I wasn't comparing him to McCutcheon himself. I was doing it to his preseason.
Preseason hero.
Yeah, he was the preseason hero, and it never flourished to that. And so Whittington was kind of that character this year. And again, I think he's built different. He's built like a LA Ram receiver. And so I'm really excited. I mean, I think the Rams have tempted in the past with a Tutu to try to see if they can use a gadget, I guess he's not really a gadget player, but someone who's speedy, who can get behind people quickly. But we haven't seen it a whole lot. And then, like you said, Tutu was kind of going to be that designated punt returner, I believe. And Xavier Smith may be that alternative option going forward.
But he's never looked good. I've never heard of anything in the last year or about the camp and stuff of him being good at punt or kick returning either. So
but they don't talk about that a
see.
whole lot. But yeah. I agree with you. I think Tutu was going to be more that designated person, but now Xavier Smith has kind of elevated himself. He's going to have to find a role in special teams. Because again, he is going to be lower man on that totem pole as far as the wide receiver chart. So he's going to have to do the dirty work on special teams to kind of, if he wants to continue to elevate his role within the Rams organization. So,
let's talk about fallers, Zach.
You don't want to talk about Spites real quick? Just real quickly. I know we're talking about, you want to go to the fallers, but I think Spites is one of those. I think it's Omar Spites.
Yeah.
However you pronounce his name, but he's really the one who could potentially take Ernest Jones's, spot if they do decide to trade him away. He was highlighted in the first 2 games. He did not play in the 3rd game because
for him to make the 53.
Yeah, confirmed, making the 53. Les Snead had good comments to say about him. He's a really good player. Um, so I think kudos to him
Yeah.
for, again, it's something that you rarely see on. This is what preseason's all about. It gives those people who wouldn't necessarily have that automatic 53-man roster and give them the opportunity to make it, to show them what they're worth outside of training camp when you don't get that full experience. And not saying that obviously
Mhm.
the preseason is a full experience, because we also joke that it's really not. But for those players who are grasping at getting the dream of a lifetime, this is their opportunity. I think he won that opportunity, and I'm so glad that he was able to make that 53. Whether he's going to be a backup to Ernest Jones or fill in that role at some point, it's gonna be fun to see him go out
Mm.
there.
Yeah, I definitely think the preseason is better for like getting a lot of like coaching data points, like how is someone playing a certain technique right? How is this DB playing this route specifically? Has he improved upon when he started getting coached earlier in the preseason or during camp? Like, or is there growth? And that's more of a coaching like thing than anything else because it's really hard to judge at least good performances in my opinion because it's all on a curve but you can definitely do yourself harm and I think the opposite is not true like you can really hurt and kill your career in the preseason if you're getting cooked and yeah we can talk about the people getting cooked now. I definitely agree with everything you said about Omar. Like, congratulations to him. I love the undrafted guys. Their stories are very inspirational, and he clawed and put in a lot of hard work. So congratulations him, and hopefully he balls out. And if Jones gets traded, he can replace him. Uh, Not too painfully, because we have had painful middle linebacker play before Jones, and I do not want to go back to that. Um, who you want to talk about Fowlers first, Zach? Do you want
Well,
to
let's go
start
ahead
off
and
easy first?
let's go ahead, yeah, because I want to save our debate towards the end. Let's go ahead and start off with who you highlighted kind of in our first slot in our notes. Let's go with Bennett. Let's talk about Stetson Bennett. He's going to be our backup quarterback
Yeah.
for the first two games
Mm,
behind Stafford. Obviously, because if you don't know, Garoppolo is 2 weeks suspension
DD.
for yep. So it's all them. So give me your take on how Stetson Bennett played in his preseason, not really debut, but comeback. First time he's played in the NFL in over a year.
Yes. And let me caveat this with saying, like, I liked him coming out of last year's draft, especially around like pick 6 or 7, kind of like a waiver pick. You give him a chance. We took him a lot sooner than I expected he would go. Um, I definitely saw the upside coming out of Georgia. These last 2 preseason games, they weren't good, and they weren't good not necessarily because he threw interceptions, but
Which he did
they
a
were
lot.
and he did, yes. Trey Lance threw more. Let me point that out.
But let's just say that Stetson Bennett almost threw as many as he did. He just got lucky that they did not actually get intercepted. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry, interrupting. Go ahead. Let you do your thing.
it, it's fine. Yet his consistency is the biggest issue, especially with the height of the throws. And maybe I'm wrong, and maybe he is just throwing it straight to the other player. That is definitely possible. But how I was taking a lot of his throws, like the wide receivers he were throwing to, weren't completely like not open in the NFL standard. He just couldn't layer the throw over the linebacker. He just kept
Yeah,
on throwing it too low. And that's like you see Stafford make that throw consistently. but he's layering it over perfectly, and you could tell Bennett hasn't made that throw enough, especially in an NFL window at an NFL angle.
Yeah, I
And
mean
that
it's
consistency just wasn't there. And we saw flashes.
yeah. I mean
We saw some really nice balls from him every so often. But
that's how Jordan Whittington wouldn't have gotten to where he was if Stetson Bennett wasn't, he threw him the ball and he was able to make those plays. I agree with everything that you're saying. We all kind of understand that Bennett was drafted as a backup quarterback. I don't think the Rams really ever was thinking that he was going to be the future front face of the Rams as far as leading the team. So we had to look at that. He hasn't played in a year. Really didn't get back into practicing until over the last couple months. So it's just one of those things where he played admirably for someone who hasn't played really a snap of a real game in over a year. But he made lots of mistakes. Like I said, he only had 5 interceptions, but he could have had more, but they were dropped. But I think you were kind of right. He was trying to fit some of these balls into windows that he should not be throwing into. Matthew Stafford earned his ability to do what he does. I just don't think Stetson Bennett was there yet. He was trying to do things that Matthew Stafford would do easily, but he's not Matthew Stafford.
mm-hmm.
He's not there.
I will say he did have one of the nicest throws of the entire preseason with one of the longest touchdowns. That was a perfectly timed, well-thrown ball. Could have been a little bit closer to the wide receiver, but that's nitpicking when you're talking about a bomb of
It
that
is,
level.
and let's just say that Stetson Benson didn't play with our offensive line. He didn't play with our our core wide receivers, our core.
He did have a clean pocket most of those
did.
preseason games.
He did get 3 sacks, but you're right. The offensive line that he had did a pretty good job. But again, it's one of those things where like he's there as a backup. Let's just please all just say a prayer before the first and second week game, making sure Stafford is going to be safe because the Lions are going to try to demolish him. And whoo boy, if the Lions were that loud at preseason, I don't even want to know what they're going to be when Stafford and the Rams come back home.
Yeah. And both games are away too, the first 2.
Yes. So,
yeah,
which Rams normally do pretty good at in away games. That's not really the problem. It's really going to be this Lions is really going to be the biggest issue because it's in an indoor stadium, which makes the sound so much louder. Even though I'm pretty sure it's probably one of the, I would have to look up the capacity wise, but when I was in there for the wild card game, it seemed like it was one of the smallest stadiums that I've ever been into as far as capacity wise. But it was one of the loudest, probably obviously because it's inside, but those fans are just loud and crazy.
Yeah, we'll see how it happens in the opener. Another faller, Trey Hodges-Tomlinson. Do you remember seeing him a lot in that third game? I think he was out there.
I don't remember seeing him that much. The Texans game fell on a awkward time for me on a middle of a Saturday, so I didn't get. I kind of caught all the highlights for that game, but did you have any?
He's just struggled to grow. Like he's consistently right there. He's just not quick enough and
he's just not it feels like he's not the correct build again. He's a little shorter than most defensive backs, and so like I don't know what that is, but I don't know if that's playing it part of it, but he hasn't shown what I thought we were going to get out of him. So
he was a late round guy though, so I mean, you can only be.
It's these players that are coming out with the kind of the family tree history that are, I don't know, it just feels like we're trying to grapple with names, and we're hoping that name comes with a value, and I haven't seen that, and I don't know if that's fair to put that on him. But it's
I
something
mean,
that
I
I've kind
liked
of
him
seen
coming out
across
of.
the league.
I liked him coming out of college. I thought his technique and just his football IQ was great. I just don't know if his speed and athleticism. y- You have to have a mix a little bit, and I think a good example is Darius Williams, where I feel like physically he isn't the most elite NFL athlete, but it's good enough that his football IQ can make up the gap a good
Yeah.
amount compared to other greater athletes. And that's where Trey Hodges Tomlinson, like, I feel like he needs to lean more towards being like Darius Williams if he wants to stay around. So I think he'll probably end up going to the practice squad if I have to guess. But we'll see. Final cuts happen, I think, right before the season. And the debate
Oh
apparently.
yeah, the bait. I saw your notes, and so like you put him in here, and I kind of think I know why you put him in here. So I think we need to discuss this because you put him in the fall category. I would have probably put him in the not mentioning category. Not that he was a rising star, but I didn't see enough problems with him. So let's go with you to put. Why did you put Joshua Carty, our new kicker, probably the best kicker in the draft, in the falling position?
I actually think Jake Bates is going to be better than Cardi.
That's not the
I
question at
really.
hand. The
Okay,
question is,
okay.
why did you put him in? Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. So I put him in there because to me, the whole point of going out and drafting Cardi was to get dependable kicks below, let's say below 45. That's kind of like the line. You want below 45, dependable, and someone who can potentially hit 50 plus yarders. I know that's asking a lot because last year we didn't even have that. So they wanted to start off with extra points and below 45, right? This guy misses a point after, and that's really not good in my mind
So
because.
one extra point. And his 50 plus yarder, which I think 51 maybe might have been what his hit, which was his miss. We want him to be perfect under 50. He was perfect under 50.
In a dome, in a
5 for 5.
and missing a point after.
I don't.
And
Everyone misses a point. Everyone misses a point. This is his first NFL career job.
but he
We want
was
a we want a
drafted as a
reliable.
guy.
But we don't want we. He was 5 for 6. He was 5 for 5 under 50, which is what the Rams want. If we're making over 50 kicks, that's because something is going drastically wrong with our offense, and we just cannot get over the hump. I mean, that's
Well,
true. Like, this is the reason why we need to be getting it under 50. That's NFL wide. I mean, other than you have, two teams who have kickers who can kick over 60, whatever. But most teams get under 50, get about, a good 90% range. That's where you're at. Don't forget that Greg the Leg, his rookie year, only had a 76% kick rate. This is 3
all
games.
I'm
He missed one
saying,
extra point. Let's not like light the torches and tell him we
I'm
need to
not
replace
lighting no
we're
torches.
gonna you put him on the fail
I'm not.
list. I feel like a
That's
fail list is like, should
Faller.
you really be
He
on the
fall.
should you fall from what? He didn't have anything
He
to fall
missed.
from.
He missed 2 kicks.
He missed okay. The
He missed
50
two
yarder
kicks.
was super close. It dinged.
It doesn't count.
I
He
don't care if
missed.
it counts.
He missed 2 kicks.
He
He
missed
missed.
one extra point kick and one over 50, which I'm going to give him. Let's see how he goes. but I'm not going to put him on a falling list just yet. We get to if we get to, game 5 or 6 and he's missed 3 under 40, then we'll come back and we'll light the torches. But right now, put your lighter away.
I'm not
Put your
lighting any
gasoline
torches.
in your lawnmower or in your car where it should be. Don't waste that precious gas on lighting torches on someone who doesn't deserve it yet.
I'm just highlighting a concerning.
Might let you borrow some gas, but
I'm just highlighting some concerning trends. Okay, I would also say I have some slight worries about Ethan Evans. Also, like his distance, perfect.
I would have put him on the. I would have put him more on the falling list than I would have if I would have replaced them. He should have been on the falling list. In our rising, I would have said we should have our kicker because we have had a terrible kickers game since Matt Gay. So I would have actually put him on the rising because even though he did miss that one extra point kick, I'm not counting the over 50. That one extra point kick, which is the biggest concern, I would have put him on rising because we at least have a kicker who seems competent.
You gotta count the 51.
What? What?
You still have to count the miss. He still missed the 51-yarder. That's
an
NFL kick.
If you have watched this podcast, you go back and me and you both don't care above the plus 50. We all know that those are a stretch for almost any kicker in the league, minus maybe 2. The goal is you need to be above 90% under 40 or under 50. He's 100% after 5 kicks. I'm happy with that. Let's move on. But I do agree with you about Ethan Evans. I am worried about his hang time. It's causing problems with our special teams defense. We need to get that addressed. He needs to.
I just don't want the last in the league special teams again because I'm still surprised we have the same coordinator after that happened. Historically bad special teams, but I'm just saying Jake Bates made a 61-yarder. Just saying.
Yeah, but our punting team wasn't really the damper of our special teams last year. It was because we didn't have a kicker. So especially since Ethan Evans is also
lost the Ravens.
Do we know Ethan Evans was our kickoff kicker? Do we know if Cardi's taking that part over?
I don't think so. I don't know. They had both of them. Okay, so Cardi had 9 kickoffs, Evans had 2, and Tanner Brown had 1. That's what I'm looking at. And it looked like basically Cardi and Evans had the same average. Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely good to have that we have a punter who can also do the kickoff return. Not all punters can do that. That kind of was more of our saving grace because we didn't have to rely on the kicker. We had a consistent kickoff person throughout the whole last season. But again, Ethan Evans, try to work on your hang time, please. That's all we're asking.
Yeah, it doesn't matter because no one is actually showing what they're going to do for the kickoff until
just sail it away. Okay. Well, that goes up with our rise and fall and our preseason review. So I think that was a pretty success. So next time, we got a real season coming up here.
Yeah, real games. You're a real
Monday Night Football, September 8th in Detroit. I have no idea if I'm going to be there or not. Prices are really expensive. It's only a 4-hour drive, but
but you don't have to pay for that hotel or tickets.
No. I would have to apply for a hotel because it's a Sunday night game. I did that before, and it was the worst decision ever to drive back after the wild card game. So I would have to find a hotel or something, or drive.
It would have been the best decision if we had won.
Yeah. Well, yes. I mean, it was also freezing outside, but I had to meet Torrey Holt, so that was all that was worth it. But it would probably be a last-minute decision if I do decide to go to Detroit. But it will be fun. So if anyone else is going to Detroit, leave those in the comments below too.
Yeah. talking about general schedule overview, what's your record prediction
Go.
here?
Oh, my record prediction. Okay, good. I thought you were
Zach
going a different
Zach
direction.
Adama.
We're not gonna go down the thing I don't want to talk about. Hold on, let me look. I'm thinking we're a 12-win team.
12.
That's
Yeah.
I think that's a good. I think we could do better, but I think I'm going safe number and saying 12.
Yeah. You know me, I'm historically always one over. And last year is I've only had 1 year where I haven't been one over, and that was 22. And then last year was the weird year where I kind of gave the caveat, but I'll say 11 wins is where I have us going. So I'm expecting 10 because that almost always happens.
Hey, at least we weren't Purdy and having our starting quarterback playing preseason games and not looking great.
Oh, someone did that? Oh, that's a
Yeah,
shame.
yeah. Begin with a
Yeah.
4, end with a 9.
Oh, well, I mean, they could finally, have a slump, maybe. But we're not going to talk about that. We'll kind of get into this schedule breakdown here for a little quick. What's the other game you said you were considering going to? Was it the
So
Bears?
right now I'm looking at the Bears. That's a 2-hour
Yeah,
trip. Also stupid
that's not
expensive, but
bad.
I would like to see Soldier Field before the Bears do move. I think that's a good kind of feels like a historic stadium with the Bears. So that's kind of something that I'm eyeing away. I'm eyeing. And then the only other game that might be a possibility is if I do get to go to LA, it would probably be the December 8th against the Bills. No promises
Mhm.
on any of these games. I was at a much better high at the beginning of the season when everything came out. Then price tickets came in, and you're just like, holy moly. But between the Bears, the Lions, and the Bills in LA, those are the three that I'm eyeing to attend.
Mhm. I have tickets for a game set, sealed, locked in the place, going to the 49ers game week 3. So someone's streak is going to get broken, Zach. The 49ers have beat the Rams 9 times straight with starters. Put that little asterisk there in the regular season. And I am 5-0 when I attend games. So, Zach, I'm interested to see if the starters, which I would assume they will all be in there. We'll see if the 49ers can break my streak, and I will be typically sad after a 49ers game.
That is an
But I'm
early
going
game.
Disneyland anyways, so I'll be
Gotta go to
happy.
Disneyland. That's what I do. When I go to Rams games, I go to Disneyland as well. So,
Yeah, see.
when in Rome, you go to Disneyland.
I'll be riding off a high from Disneyland going into the game. So if we
Yep.
lose, I won't feel as bad.
Are you gonna do a
I'll just
stadium
think
tour?
about it. Uh, I think are those free? Do you have to sign up for those?
If they aren't free, they're relatively inexpensive. And I think you get something out of it too. But you usually get to get out on the field and stuff like that. So definitely check it out. Usually they don't do it if there's a big event that's happening, like there's a concert or something
Ah,
close
I
to
gotcha.
that. They won't do it, but um, I I think it's less than $40. I think, um, but you get on the field, which I think is kind of cool. And it would be a Rams field if you're going that close. I mean, if you're going to a home game, then it'd be a Rams field and not a Chargers field.
Mm.
So that's what
Yeah,
I would
no,
do.
I would definitely check that out if I can. So I'll look into that a little bit. But I'm excited to go to that game.
Oh,
Mm,
there's four
It,
different versions of the tour, or three different versions of this tour: the standard, the combo, or the all access. So if
Ah,
you're interested in a
so
SoFi Stadium tour, standard costs $45, gets you a 60-minute guided tour. Combo gets you a 60-minute guided tour, field access, team locker room access, and the Catch AR photo for $56.65. And the all access gets you everything in standard in combo, but it also gets you a $15 shop or eat voucher. Which if you take the $15 off, then you're looking at saving some money. There you go.
SoFi
Fine.
Stadium food was not good. So, and
Apparently, it's
I've
going to be
heard that
better this
hasn't
year.
changed.
I thought I heard it was going to be better this year, so maybe not.
They say I will test that theory, Zach,
I'm
because
too
I went
nervous to
there.
eat. I'm too nervous to eat when I go to these games. Like I'm too nervous to get out of my seat. So I get to the game as soon as they open so I can look at everything and get my souvenirs before the game starts so that I'm just never moving once the game.
Oh, I'm a nervous eater, so I eat because I'm nervous. And I was destroying some. If you ever go to the Baltimore Ravens Stadium, they have a fantastic Oreo churro. And me and my wife were demolishing those churros during that game. And I thought we were going to lose that game the entire time until the final drive. Thank you, OBJ. But I I eat when I'm nervous, and it's a bad habit. So definitely can't do that. Any games on this list here that kind of pop off or pop out to you as like we're definitely gonna lose that game?
It's so unknown because you don't know what these teams are going to look like. I think you look at some of these games
Sure.
and it's the 49ers are always going to be a tough challenge. I think the Bills could be a tough challenge, even though it's going to be a home game. I think it's going to be less there. Again, it comes down to like I see all these teams potentially being a beatable team. Like I'm not super. I mean, the Lions are going to be tough because it's going to be in the Lions' den. I'm not super. It's the Cardinals. Not really. Feeling that. So that's two games that I'm not super worried about. San Francisco. If it was me,
You're
I
not
think we're
worried
going to
about
be.
the Lions?
I am worried about the Lions, but so the Lions, I'd be. Let me go through this. Lions, I'd be worried about. San Francisco, I'd be worried about, but I think we would go 1-1 with them. So potential 2 loss. Chicago's going to be a weird one. Caleb Williams, he could be, the next quarterback. We'll see. Green Bay, not super concerned about. Raiders, not super secured about. Vikings, I'm not super
Vikings.
secure.
Yeah.
I'm not really super worried about them. Seahawks, not really. Dolphins, not really. Maybe
Oh,
a
you're not worried
little.
about the Dolphins.
I'm not really. I mean, they're at home. I don't think they're going to have a big away presence. Patriots, I'm not really worried about. Maybe the Eagles. Not really worried about the Saints. Maybe the Bills. Again, that San Francisco away game, I think, will be more or less important. That one's going to be dangerous. The Jets. And then again, we go back to the Cardinals and the Seahawks again. So I'm not.
Oh,
I'm very optimistic about this season. I could easily say that we may only lose 3 or 4 games, which which would be better than I think that my schedule even that I said 12 games. So I'm not
yeah.
concerned.
Our defense though is I don't know if our secondary can grow. Like I feel like we're gonna have pressure, the most pressure we've faced on QBs in the last
Which
three, 4 years since Von
if
Miller.
that's the case, that gives the DBs more flexibility and we're less relying on the DBs because we're making the quarterback throw off. He doesn't have all the time in the world. He doesn't have the perfect throw. He has to play
The
off of that
DB still
rush.
had to be on the field and not in the hospital, Zach.
Well, yes, correct. You are correct. Anything you're thinking of as far as concerning?
Losses. Uh, I I think we lose the Lions. I think the Rams have historically done kind of, at least under McVay, bad against rookie QBs. Like, we haven't just completely dominated rookie QBs. Just always kind of struggled against them and at least like played to their level. So I think we get Williams before he gets really hot, but we still lose to the Bears. I think we always kind of feel like that catalyst game for like QBs, especially rookie QBs or first time start QBs, to just like have trajectories to go off. Because I feel like it was Green Bay against us where you kind of saw their QB, I forget his name, kind of start to really go off a little bit after their bye or whatever. Not worried about the Raiders, not worried about the Vikings, not really worried about the Seahawks. I could see the Seahawks kind of falling apart again this year. I think we lose to Dolphins. I think the Dolphins are going to be top 5 offense this year, and their defense is going to be sneaky good. I don't think it'll be like a top 10 defense, but I think it'll be like kind of like the year the Rams went to Super Bowl 21, like 11 or 12, like definitely good enough to win playoff games, but they're not going to be like very flashy highlight top 5 defense. So I think we lose to Dolphins there. So that's what, 3? No, that's 4. And then I'm going to say we lose to 49ers. And we have an overtime thriller beating the Jets.
If Aaron Rodgers is going to be there.
If Aaron Rodgers is there. Hey,
all
if he
right.
makes it 5 snaps, that's more than last year.
This is true. Well, everybody, that's it. We're coming up to regular season. 2 more weeks. September 8th. Sunday Night Football. Rams kick things off against the Detroit Lions in Detroit. It's going to be an electric game. Can the Rams muster a win? I think they have it in them. Ashton thinks they don't. It's kind of how we go, the yin and the yang of this podcast. And I'm just kidding. We both hope the Rams are going to win, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough game. But we really enjoy everyone who listens to this podcast each and every time we drop an episode. Please like, subscribe, share this podcast. You can find us on X at East Coast Rams. You can find us on YouTube, youtube.com/East Coast Rams. All of our other socials, you can find us at eastcoastrams.com. I am Zach. Find me at Zach Mayer. That's Ashton. Find him at Rams Fan Ashton 1. Anything else you want to say before we wrap this thing up?
That's fine. Zach, your joke's kind of just like Cardi's kick, just missed a little wide right.
Are you the yin or am I the yang? You decide. My jokes are on point. Thank you. All right. Well, with that, we are going to wrap this episode of the East Coast Rams podcast. Thank you again for listening, and we will see you guys on a Rams Victory Monday on September 9th. Whose house?
Rams house.